This podcast is proudly sponsored by Surf Prep Sanding. They're a family-owned and operated company specializing in sanders, abrasives, and dust extractors. I've been using Surf Prep for years and have come to know the amazing people behind their brand. I love their 6-inch random orbital sander and the 3x4 sander the best, and they have helped me level up my sanding to get a great finish for my projects. Use code MAKERLOUNGE, all one word, at surfprepsanding.com for 10% off your order. Now let's get to today's episode. Huge thanks to Surf Prep for sponsoring this episode. Use code MAKERLOUNGE for 10% off, and that gives me the warm fuzzies when you use that code. If you also want to be part of the Maker Lounge podcast community, head over to patreon.com/MakerLounge podcast and sign up for as little as $3 a month. Hey guys, welcome to the lounge. I'm Matt with Woodworking and your host of the Maker Lounge podcast, where changing intros is as important as emptying your dust collector. I'm going to take a string at this intro. This guy was once a clean-shaven corporate woodworker and now gets most of his work done with no strings attached. After a long fret party, he oils up the body and posts pictures of the G-string on social media. He's on a mission to get his hours in chasing perfection and making awesome guitars. His name is Tye, and his business is Shock the Fox.
Wow, that was, I mean, we could just wrap it up right now, my friend.
You know, I try to get like a good recap of who you are.
Wow.
And so hopefully I got it all in there. I'm not sure about the fret parties.
I think I'm blushing.
I questioned using the word G-string in the intro, but
I mean, there is a G-string, so
there is.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I chuckled on that one a little bit too much, and I was like, "Is this too risque? Like for my intros?"
It kind of fits my personality a little bit.
How you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Good. I'm doing good. It's awesome to get to see you in person. Well, as much as in person as this is.
I mean, most people out there only like see my hands. That's all they really ever see. I rarely show my face in just about anything I do. So
yeah. Well, and that was a nice little surprise when I went to your YouTube channel. I was like, oh, he does have like a face. It's not just hands.
There's actually a person behind all this madness. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I wonder how old this guy is. Is he in his 20s, 30s, 60s?
I'll tell you, this guy's 52 years old.
52 years young.
Yeah. Well, no, it's old now. When your kids make the noises you make when you get up off the couch, when they get off the couch to make fun of you, that's when you know you're definitely old.
sound like a snap crackle pop.
Yeah.
Trying to get out of.
Oh. Yeah,
that's right.
That's what they do now, jerks.
Yeah, I remember my dad getting out of bed, and I'm like, God, you could just hear him coming. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with him?
It's a process.
And you probably said the same thing. I will never be like that.
Yeah. I mean, we're all invincible up to a point, and then you're not anymore.
Yeah. Gravity takes over.
Yes, it does.
So I said in the intro, you used to be you used to do a corporate job.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about that.
So I was in sales for lots of years. And it was on the pharma side, so pharma sales.
Okay.
And actually, this is a good tie-in, so I'll get back to the question in a second. I think the sales job, even though like I grew up, my dad did some woodworking, we built things, we built fences and whatnot, right? But the sales job is what really pushed me into it. Meaning, like in sales, there's never a start and an end. It's either you're trying to get somebody to do something for the first time, or you're trying to get them to do it more often. Right.
So always be closing.
Yeah, there's never an end to it. So I remember like when I had this little townhouse with a backyard smaller than my garage, and I used to spend so much time cutting that grass, making it look perfect with my little cub cadet that I think I finally got rid of like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and look at it as proud as a peacock, just thinking like that is the most awesome grass ever. And I was like, that's what I'm missing. Like there's nothing ever done in my life. So I actually started getting tools and started getting into woodworking. And so that led me to, I guess, where I am today. But nonetheless, back to your original question. I was in sales for years, and it's weird when you're in sales. Typically, the corporate folk think that if you're good at sales, then you're probably good at leading salespeople. And if you're good at leading salespeople, then you're probably good at doing something in the home office. And if you're good at that, then this guy's not just good in the home office, he's good in the home office and he was good at sales. So I ended up, my last job is I was in charge of learning and development for a pharma company, and which was kind of cool because it wasn't just teaching salespeople. Like I had all the different books of business were responsible for, people coming to the company, and I was kind of like the face of what they got to see, which is really scary now that I think about it. Like this mug. But yeah, I did it for years, and it finally got to a point where my wife and I, we both were having good careers, and I realized, it's 5 years ago now, maybe almost 6 years ago, I realized that I had never, I didn't see my kids. I mean, if you think about when they're, my kids are now 13 and 15, at that point, they would go to bed at 8:30. So when I got home from work at 7:30, I'd see them for a half an hour. They go start getting their baths and whatnot. And then I would leave hours before they woke up in the morning. And then I'd see them on the weekends. So I said, and we were lucky enough that I could say, all right, that's it. I'm done. And walked away and was very thrilled to do so, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if my wife was so thrilled, because I think we talked about it, but then I think I kind of shocked her when that day finally came.
Is that where Shock the Fox came from?
Oh, no. Yeah, no, that's another story. No one knows the real story behind that one. Nobody.
Ooh, are we going to save that one for the after show, or are we going to get to it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could probably save that for the after show. That'll keep people hanging on, right?
Yeah. Maybe a little teaser. So to be clear, the fox is not, you weren't shocking your wife.
No, I was not. Let me say it this way. I've told at least 3 or 4 different variants of where it comes from, and nobody knows the true story. Nobody does. I don't even know. This is what's great. I don't even know if in the after show I'll tell the true story yet. This might be another variant. You never know.
You tell that to all the podcast hosts.
You never know. I could be lying again. I mean, I am a sales guy first and foremost back in the old days. So yeah.
You've told it so many different ways. You don't know which one is true.
Yeah, no, they're all true now.
Yeah.
When you hear them back to you, that hey, this is where you got the name, then it's become true. It's no longer a fabrication. Yeah.
Yeah. So you make guitars primarily for your business.
I do now. Yeah, that's all I do now. When I it's funny, when I first came home, I knew I wasn't just going to be sitting around when the kids were at school.
Right.
I reached out locally. We were living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. And I think I reached out and just maybe advertised some stuff locally, like local Facebook groups and whatnot. I wasn't even really doing anything on Instagram at that point. And I met a couple of interior designers and stuff. And I was doing a lot of custom build-ins and that kind of, a lot of cabinetry.
Right.
A lot of I don't even know what the heck they're called. Those things when you come in the mud room where you throw your shoes and the hooks and the...
Hall trees.
Yeah, you got it. Yes.
Yeah.
I was doing those, it seemed nonstop, but
yeah,
it's funny, that was... And I'm sure anyone that does any type of cabinetry building could probably say the same thing. Everyone wants like IKEA prices for that stuff. And
Yeah.
I just, it wasn't worth it to me because, one, I was getting older. Moving those big cabinets around in a one-man shop, it wasn't fun. Like, at the end of days, I was exhausted, but it wasn't a good exhausted. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I was doing cool work and I really loved doing it.
Yeah.
But, man, I was just spent.
The best day was when it was out of the shop.
Yeah. When you actually had a shop again.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I got my shop back today.
But then next thing you know, you're loading in 10 sheets of maple, 3/4 inch maple ply, and your back hurts again.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I understand that 100% because that's how I started. I started off in doing cabinetry.
Yeah.
And in doing it back then in a 2-car garage, it's impossible to. Yeah. I would send stuff off to the finisher, and then he'd be finishing stuff, and then I would be working on the next project. So I really never had my shop back.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
So I did that for a while, and I had built a guitar years ago as a test. I always saw it as, all right, what I think the first time I did one, I'm like, all right, what can I do that can test me as a woodworker? I don't call myself guitar builders or people makers of stringed instruments are called luthiers. I don't ever call myself that. Like I'm a woodworker that makes guitars, and I think it's because like I didn't go to school for this. I didn't apprentice with anyone. But then again, I didn't do that for any of the woodworking stuff I've done. So I don't know. I just never wanted to be considered that. But that test of not just building something out of wood, which I think most woodworkers could do, but it actually has to do something the right way, like in a very precise manner. Right. Or, tonally and construction wise, and notes have to be in the right place. I was like, man, if
it's kind of important.
If I could pull this off, like this is a good test of my ability. And I think once I did that one, I was like, it always was there. And once I got sick of doing build-ins, and I think it was one customer that actually never wanted to do another build-in for the rest of my life kind of customer. Oh yeah. When I had to bring the sander into their house and sand everything again after it was done. And I'm like, yeah. So, I just started building guitars, and it's funny. Like when I really dove in, I did this interesting, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was fun and cool and different. I had just got onto Instagram at that time, and I reached out to, I think it was maybe 7 or 8 random people on Instagram that I followed, and I really dug what they were doing. And it wasn't just woodworkers. Like one guy was building custom motorcycle parts. Another guy was making fishing nets, and like just random people that I thought were doing really cool, inspirational stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, I literally, and you know what this is like, because I think we still get messages, or I get messages like this quite often, and I always remember this, feeling this way. I was like, I'm not trying to be weird, but if you do actually read this and you respond, just know that I'm actually trying to do something nice here, and I don't want anything in return. Yeah, I made, I think it was 5, 6, 7, I don't know, 7 to 10 guitar bodies, just the bodies of guitars that I knew that they could buy a neck for these guitars. I knew that they could buy the pickups. I knew that if they had the body and they bought like an aftermarket neck and the rest of the parts, they could finish building these guitar bodies. Yeah. Because I was like, I was just trying to think of it. I'm like, man, if I was one of these, that'd be cool. Some dude says, hey, I want to send you a free guitar body. Yeah, dude, that's pretty cool. I don't play guitar. I don't make guitars, but that's kind of a cool thing. Yeah. And I did it. And like one of the people was Michael from Calvary, who does shop aprons, for crying out loud. and he still has it hanging up at his place.
That's cool.
It was just a cool way for me. And in the note that I wrote them, I'm like, I challenge you to finish it. And just to try something, because I was digging it so much, I wanted someone else to try to dig it a little bit too, you know?
Right.
So after I was done doing that, like my Instagram started to grow, because I didn't look at these people as influencers. I hate the term, or content creators. I just saw them as people that I looked up to they were building cool stuff.
Right.
But I think with them reposting some of these things, that ended up starting to grow my business. But yeah,
right.
Kind of crazy.
Way better than sticker swap.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I've never, ever, not once, had stickers made. I don't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I have guitar picks. I'll give someone a guitar pick, but I don't have
that's cool.
and I don't have any like stickers hanging up on anything in my shop. I've never done it.
Yeah. I did it when I was an Instagram teen, you know, like when I had first started it. And looking back on it now, I'm like, why did I ever do that? Because now I can see it. You know, you get the questions, or that somebody just follows you and they're like, sticker swap? You know, love your stuff. I'm like, you literally just followed me today.
Yeah.
Like, been following you for a long time. Like, you know that we get notifications, right? Like when you start following me.
It's right there. I see you.
Yeah. Like, oh, thanks. But I actually have an auto response now when it says sticker swap. It's basically like, I have a keyboard shortcut in my phone it basically says, hey, look, I don't do sticker swaps, you know, appreciate, you know, you reaching out, but I send it out with orders. So, you know, if you want a sticker, you know, consider checking out the website, and here's the website name.
Yeah.
But,
like I'll give someone a guitar pick if they buy a guitar. Sure.
Yeah. Right.
That's great.
I paid thousands of dollars for this guitar pick, and I got a free guitar.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So your first guitar was an electric?
Yeah, that's all I do. I've made one hollow body, like electric guitar.
Yeah.
Actually, for the Great Guitar Build Off last year, that when I won that one in the professional category, that was a hollow body guitar, but a hollow body electric. But I have all the stuff to make an acoustic guitar. I don't. It's funny, like when I first was considering it, I quickly realized that like all the tooling has to be changed. Like it's just such a different process, and you need such different tools for that.
Right.
I was like, it's going to take me a while to get to that point where I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I just haven't pulled the trigger. Like I even have wood over in my wood library to make
I like that.
an acoustic guitar. But I'm waiting. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I'm waiting.
I'm going to start calling my wood pile a wood library.
If it's organized, it's a wood library.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it's not organized,
well, that's just your lumber.
Wood hoarder.
Yeah, that's firewood potentially. Yeah. I don't know.
I was having my garage door motor replaced today. And I was telling the guy, I was like, yeah, I need to move, you know, I mean, I had stacks of lumber in different places. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to probably call 1-800-GOT-JUNK. He's like, for the wood? I was like, are you crazy? Not for the wood.
No.
For the other stuff.
For these bicycles that are in the way.
Yeah.
the bicycles and that treadmill that has been holding up a bunch of stuff for.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen my face when he said, for the wood? I'm like, Are you dumb?
Yeah, you were actually like you were physically disturbed and mad at that point.
Yeah, he was a nice guy, but I got
funny.
one of those. I got one of those side mounted jack. What are they, like jack screw, like garage door openers, whatever.
Yeah.
So now I have a ton of overhead space because I don't have that stupid garage, like that channel that comes right down the middle of the garage.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of jealous now. It's like, yeah, now I want that.
It's awesome. It's
and I
awesome.
just had mine replaced probably like, I don't know, 3 months ago.
Dang it. Too late.
Yes. Gonna have to break it.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know that you couldn't install lumber racks on a garage door. I mean, sorry,
That's
honey.
so weird.
I must have broke the...
That's great.
Yeah. So lots of upgrades coming to the shop.
Yeah. That's nice.
You were talking to me kind of before we started about your shop situation. You're in a 4-car. Why don't you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is funny. So real estate is weird. I think we can all agree to that. Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason, like in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, where we lived previously, I don't know what it was when these builders built these houses, but they built so many garages onto the house we were living in. And it wasn't that big of a house. It was like a 3-car garage, like a double and a single. And they had a detached 2-car garage.
Oh, wow.
It was actually like a 2.5. And I was like, this is perfect. Like,
right.
I got shop space. And my wife always knows, like, when we're looking for houses, I need something to do what I do.
Right.
My wife's a runner. She goes out running. She doesn't need anything. The house doesn't accommodate her.
Sounds like she could run around the shop.
Yeah. So I needed a garage. But when we moved here outside of, in the suburbs of Chicago, garages aren't common. And so we finally found a house that we could afford. And luckily, we'd always look at the garages, and if they didn't have enough garage space, we'd say, like, okay, can we build a shop for you? And does it have the property? Does it have, which none of them do?
Right.
Does it have does the HOA allow that big building in the backyard? Absolutely, they don't.
Right.
So we were lucky to find a place that had two-car garages. So I just walled one off as far away from the house as possible and threw up a mini split. And now I'm far enough away where if they listen quietly, they can probably hear the air compressor come on. But other than that, I'm in I'm in another world, but I'm still connected, which is nice.
Which that's nice because then when you go to work, you're really going to work. Mm-hmm. You're not having, My
commute is very easy. I don't have to put my coffee in like a Yeti mug or anything. I can go into a coffee cup, and I can make it to my place of work. My coffee's still steaming hot every day.
Right. and you can go take a nap at lunch if you want to.
Well, allegedly, I'm taking naps. I don't. I don't. My wife, Amy, I'm sure she knows that I enjoy a nice nap during the day once in a while, we'll say. But,
right.
Yeah, sure. I could take a nap. Maybe that sandwich was a little hearty and maybe I needed to sleep it off. You never know.
Yeah, making guitars cannot be an easy task. I'm sure it requires a lot of mental capacity, so you need to sleep that off a little bit.
Yeah. I'm glad you're saying this. Thank you.
Yes, feel free to share the episode with her. Now say a bunch of nice things real quick.
You're lovely, honey. You're lovely.
My wonderful wife.
Thank you for letting me do this out here.
Yeah. So living the dream, making guitars. How many guitars do you typically make in like a year's time frame? Does it vary?
It does vary, but what's interesting is I normally have my year planned out the year near the end of the year. Like October, November, December, I know what my next year is going to look like. Now, I only open my books once a year. I announce it on Instagram. I say, hey, I'm opening my books. And depending on what I already know that I have to do based on other things, I might say I'm going to take on 5 commission builds. I'm going to take on 7, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. This year was a little different. I got invited to do a guitar show here in Chicago, and I've gone to these things where you go in and you see a bunch of these other guitar builders and they're selling guitars. And oftentimes they have teams of people working. It is,
right.
You're
the team.
Me.
Yeah.
There is only an M-E in team. There's no I. It's just me. And, I didn't ever think that. I was like, oh, man, I'd love to do it. But someone invited me and I was pretty stoked to be invited. So I was like, okay, I have a couple of guitars that I could bring, but they're customer guitars. What if I add 3 more guitars onto the list that was already full,
right?
And try to get, and of course, if I'm going to bring them to a guitar show, I don't want to build crap.
Yeah. It's kind of
and
important.
I don't want them to just be simple. I want them to be a good representation of what I can do. So I've been working a lot more than I typically do, which is cool, but I'm feeling those old school corporate deadline things creeping in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where normally it's like, I tell people the reason I only open my books once a year is because some of these other guitar builders will say, right now I'm scheduling in 2025. I'm scheduling in 2026. So if you want to buy a guitar, that's when it'll be ready. Man, life is too short. I don't know what the hell I'm doing in 2025. I don't know I definitely don't know what I'm doing in 2026. I don't know what I'm doing next week.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, and if I was someone, I try to think like as the consumer, the person that's buying this thing, man, that would suck to put down 50%, like a lot of these people charge.
Right.
To say, all right, I just put all this money out, and I got to wait until 2025 before you even start building the darn thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in the Amazon culture where you pay and you get it in 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tough.
So that's where I think some of the bespoke word comes into, like when I have that as part of my slogan, if you will.
Yeah.
Is it's made for a person, like an individual. It's not, I don't run a production shop. I make individualized bespoke instruments for people that, how do I describe it? I was talking to someone else about this. One of my kids and I were in Alaska last weekend, and I was talking to a fisherman, believe it or not. And we were just talking about this, the process of what I do and how I do it. And here's a guy that goes out every day and catches salmon. I mean, that's his life. And I'm like, well, no, I don't do that. Like what I do, and your job is incredibly cool and important. And I'm glad that I got to spend a few hours hanging out with you trying to catch salmon, for crying out loud. But a lot of people that came with us on this trip, a lot of people wanted to go fishing just because they hadn't. Like my thing is, I'm in a niche of a niche of a niche.
Right.
Like that's what I do. Like people that play guitar, that's a niche.
Right.
People that like to play guitar and like to buy a high-end instrument. I felt weird saying that, which is that's weird.
Yeah.
That's another niche. Then there's this group of people that not only want a high-end instrument, they want one that no one else in the world is ever going to have. It's theirs, and they're going to probably put it in their casket with them. They're never going to, like, I normally tell people that buy my guitars, if you ever want to sell this thing, call me and I'll pay you what you bought it for. Like that. It's because they mean it a lot. They mean a lot to me too. Like you spend so much time with these darn things. Like I also tell people whenever someone buys one of my guitars, I'm like, just so you know, if you play this thing every day, you still won't have touched every single square millimeter of this thing as many times as I have.
Yeah.
You never will the rest of your life.
That's something to think about.
Yeah. Like, and that's how much I don't know, I put into it. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to buy them back. I'm like, they're like my kids. When I see them go, I'm kind of sad. You know, you don't want to part
it's going
with
to end up with some, 14-year-old getting into the junior high band or whatever. And
yeah, like,
and then they're going to give it to Goodwill. And
And if someone bought my guitar for some 14-year-old kid that fell in love with it and beat the hell out of it, that'd be awesome. I think that would be so incredibly cool.
I'm guessing that's not your clientele.
But if they ever want to get rid of it, just give me a call. I'll buy it back.
Yeah. So tell me about the design process. Like somebody contacts you, and like your general customer, like the majority of your customers, are they saying, "Hey, Tye, you know me," or here's the styles that I like. You do what you think works for me, or do they say, "I want this exact thing"?
Yeah. So if someone says they want this exact thing, I typically tell them I'm probably not your guy. I'll typically tell them you need to go buy that thing.
Right. Yeah. Here's the number to your local Guitar Center.
Yeah. I saw one of those for sale on reverb.com like not long ago. Go buy it because I'm not going to make that for you. Like if someone says I want I want a Fender Telecaster in this color with this and this, I'll say that's not for me.
Buy
like,
it,
yeah. Go buy that guitar. Like I have right now 4 designs, 4 body styles, and they can pick whichever one they want. It's funny, like even on my website, I put in there not just what I can do, I put in there what I don't want to do. Like
that's good.
If they say I want it to be sprayed with a nitrocellulose finish, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. Like I don't like to do that. If you want that, go buy one that has that. I like it the way that I do it. So like, I guess that's why it's that niche of a niche of a niche. Like people finding me is probably just as tough as me finding those people. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's we have to be synced up. And I've said no plenty of times. Like, I probably say no 90% of the time. A lot of people will say, hey, do you have any, someone actually asked me today, do you have any guitars, like stock guitars that you're willing to part with? No. Like everything that I have has a person's face and name to it. You know what I mean? It's very,
you're an artist.
It's very specific to that person. Everything was picked specifically for them, for that build. And I can't just say, hey, here's one that'll be perfect for you. No.
Yeah.
No, I can't do
I have
that.
this old flying V back here, the flat black or whatever.
Right. Like I don't want to do that. It's funny. Like I've considered, because I think it would be cool for areas that I think could make some of my stuff better. So here's a good, I don't use the CNC machine at all. Like I don't use that. Now a lot of builders do, and I love their work. Like I would buy some of these guitars. But there's something for me, like if I was to have one, I would use it to do like crazy cool inlays and stuff that, and I wouldn't even do it because it wouldn't be because it would save me time. It would probably help me in my precision. That would probably be what that would be. But I wouldn't use it to cut out a guitar body. I wouldn't use it to do a shape or a contour on a guitar body. I wouldn't use it to shape the back of a neck. I would do it just to make intricate details that, man, my glasses and those crazy spectacles that I put over my glasses that makes me look like a neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
It would help that process. I would feel more comfortable in that process, if that makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, like to me, it's about, I like that slow, meticulous, methodical process of building these darn things. And I guess so I don't know if this is the right time to say it or not. Like my goal, it's a weird goal. It's kind of weird.
All right.
My goal is to get to a point where I don't even have to sell the darn things.
Yeah.
Now that would be awesome. Like, if I could, and I don't know how to do this, if I could somehow monetize like what I do, you know, whether it be, I'll use the stupid words like through endorsements or sponsors or whatever. If I could get enough of that where I could just break even every single year, if that was all it was, I would pick out probably 4 or 5 of these guitar players that I just loved as a kid. You know what I mean? Or looked up to, or I think they do really cool stuff. Man, if I just could say, instead of even having the conversation with them, say, I'm going to build what I think they would think is really, really cool.
Right.
And I'm just going to surprise them with it and give it to them and hopefully knock their socks off and see what that validation feels like. That's would be awesome. That would be really, really cool.
And that would be taking it back to your roots of when you started all this and making a bunch and getting it out to people.
Yeah. Like I would love to be able to do that just because it would, you know, I mean, I have to pay for this wood library. You know, I got to pay for the stuff that goes on the guitar. Pickups aren't free. You know, the tuning machines aren't free. If I could get that stuff paid for, man, that would be awesome. That would just, I would have a lot of, I don't have any bad days right now, but I would have a lot more exceptional days if that was the case.
Do you design your own, like styles, or is there like, most people are like, I want a Telecaster style or whatever?
Yeah. So when I first did it, like when I first sent out those guitars to those folks, I was just doing Telecaster bodies. And the reason I did that, and the reason I picked that particular instrument is, if you looked up, you know, in a dictionary, electric guitar, you'd probably see a Stratocaster or a Telecaster or a Gibson Les Paul. Those are the 3 that you'd see. If there was a picture saying electric guitar, that's what you'd probably see.
Right.
And the Telecaster is such a simple design. I started making it. I'm like, all right, how can I take this simple design and put a really cool piece of bird's eye maple on top? How can I take this and do the contours different than what Leo Fender said was the right way all those years ago? How can I tweak this so that it's still a Telecaster and yet it's my iteration of a Telecaster?
Right.
And I did that. Now, like I got to a point where if someone wants Telecaster, the answer is no. So I have a guitar that, one of my videos on Instagram somewhere, it's kind of funny. Like I did the outline of a Telecaster body, and then I just sat there and said, all right, how would I make this my own version of that? And I actually subtracted more because I colored in the areas that I added, and I colored in the areas that I subtracted in a different color. And I was like, I actually took away more than what I added, but it's a completely different guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, this is my version now of a Telecaster. And I'm like, all right, what if so if you think about, not to get geeked out on guitar stuff, but a Telecaster has like that big horn at the top, and then it's got the one little, like, it's got like the big loop and then one horn on one side. And a Stratocaster has the 2 horns, right?
Right.
So I was like, now I wonder if I could take this exact same shape, subtract more, and turn it into a Stratocaster, like my version or iteration of a Stratocaster type guitar. And I did that. And I also, like, I have like my version of a Les Paul and my version of a double horned Les Paul, like a Les Paul Jr. Like, so I have like my 4 shapes that I love. They're mine. Like if someone looks at one of these, they're like, oh yeah. It's funny. Like a lot of people will say that is a such and such guitar. And I literally, cause I'm not a student of the game so much. Like I have to look up what's this crazy name of this guitar, this person. Then I do my quick search. I'm like, oh yeah, it actually does kind of look like that. I mean, it's a guitar. How many different versions of the same darn thing? I'm like, yeah, no, it absolutely does look like that. But I didn't know that person existed, which is really kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I get a lot of my inspiration for that stuff. Like my buddy's a knife maker. Like I like the way that the lines flow on a knife. Another buddy I said like makes motorcycle parts and stuff. Like the way the lines flow on a motorcycle. He's done custom builds on motorcycles. Like I use that stuff for more of a inspiration than I do looking through guitars to be inspired. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that speaks to your artistic nature for that kind of thing.
It probably does. Yeah.
If you did something where you licensed out like manufacturing of like one particular style to be made by like a CNC manufacturer, would that water down your brand? Is that something that you wouldn't do?
I don't know. That's a good question. I another guy I know that I follow, he actually has one of his styles made, and then they come to him, and then he does all the finishing touches on them. It's actually really a cool style. It's a cool process. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like I don't know if watered down is, I would feel like I'm cheating somebody. I don't like, I would feel like all those, how do I say it? All those individual millimeters won't have touched as many times as I would like.
Right.
Is that like, it's not mine. Yeah. I don't know. It would feel weird.
I guess it's like a photographer who takes a picture that they really love, and then they get prints made of it.
Yeah.
So there's one original, and then there's a bunch of prints that are or I guess not a photographer, but like an artist, a painter.
Yeah.
There's one original. There's a bunch of prints.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Does that water down the original work?
It's
I don't know. I'm just thinking about it.
Who's the guy? Sam Maloof made like the great walnut chairs, and you see his joinery, whatever. I've seen other chairs that look like a Sam Maloof chair.
Yeah,
but I know that that's not a Sam Maloof chair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like I don't know. Maybe I just want to be Sam Maloof. I don't know. Just only making a handful of these chairs that actually have strings on them and make noise. Lots of noise.
Right. Yeah. plucking chairs.
Yeah. That's funny.
mean, my chair makes noise when I go to a Mexican restaurant, but
yeah, well, I think most chairs I sit in make noise.
Well, we talked earlier. They make noise when you're getting up.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's not just that. It's me making that noise.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what makes a quality guitar? What's the difference between like what you're doing besides the touching, and getting in every nook and cranny to sand it down? And
I don't know that answer. I know what
the person.
I know what I do, and I never say that anyone that builds these things that their way is wrong. Because I mean, if it makes noise, it makes noise. I got into a conversation with someone recently who actually worked at Gibson, and I was sharing with this person. I'm like, it's like the whole conversation should have started off with not to be a jerk, but
but
I tried to explain to him, like, while I like the Gibson designs, I just think, just like I like the Fender designs, I just think there's a lot of steps that they take in the process that, how do I say this? That it's an easier way to do it. Yeah. It's either it saves on lumber, it saves on construction time, it saves in many, many ways. Whereas I look at it from and I'm not an engineer by any means, but I look at it from like a building furniture. Like I look at it from like a mortise and tenon or a dovetail perspective, a hand cut dovetail, as opposed to just jamming the Craig jig in there and putting the two pieces together.
Yeah.
To me, the Craig jig joint will work great. And I've used it millions of times myself, not on a guitar. Like, I don't want to just take those routes of saying this way is easier. I can get it done quicker if I do it this way. So I'll give you an example, and maybe it'll make sense, maybe it won't. So you'll see a guitar, and there's nothing wrong with a guitar that has a bolt-on neck. Literally, it's You put the neck in a pocket and you put 4 screws in the back and it holds the neck on. I build my necks into the guitar. And when I say into it, it literally is running about 3/4 of the way into the guitar. And then I put the top onto that, fit it around the neck so that it's sandwiching that thing so that not only is that neck cut like a big dovetail, but the top is now on the top and there's a bottom on. It's complicated. And the people that, if I play one of my guitars, I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. But I've sold my guitars to people that are guitar players, and they're like, every time I pick up one of your guitars, I can feel every little slight pluck of a string way down here at the bridge. I can feel it all the way up here at the end where my other hand is.
Right.
And they, there's the fancy terms of, is it good tone wood? Is it good resonance? All this crap that the people talk about. I think it's just a construction. I try to do it differently than most. So I blame that. So I think that's the intricacies of what I do versus what other people do. So
it makes sense.
Yeah, maybe.
And as I played guitar for many years. I haven't played very much lately. So I can see what you're saying. As far as being able to feel it, like when you're playing an electric guitar, there's not a ton of movement in the bass of the guitar, in the body of it. Yeah. So when you said that, I'm like, oh, I can see how that would make sense with it just connecting.
It rings different. It like even like the little subtle things where most guitars, I'm going to use the air quotes.
Right.
Most guitars will, like when they put the frets in the neck, they'll just jam the fret in there and then they slice it off the side with a file and then they make it comfortable so it doesn't cut your fingertips, right?
Right.
Well, I go through a process where I bind the fretboard, which isn't uncommon, but I do like these crazy little semi-hemispherical ends on each fret, and I do it by hand to fit the fretboard perfect before I even put the frets in. So that when I put my frets in, like you go like this and you don't feel anything. Like it's like a pillow. And some people do that. Like when you look at the really high end custom guitars, they do that. But I just do it every time because I feel like it's the right way to do it. I don't know. Not saying the other way's wrong. I try not to cut any corners. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Like I try to buy the coolest wood that I can find. And I don't worry about the cost of the wood. I don't, like, that cost is absorbed into the cost of my guitars. You know what I mean? If someone says, I want this crazy master grade quilted maple that there's only one of, yeah, okay, let me see if I can find a piece. If I can find a piece, that'll be on your guitar.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I loved the color burst one that you did for, what was it, last year or the year before?
Oh,
for the build
year before. Yeah, where I cut up the flame maple and made it look like my vision with that was like most people, and I got a lot of flack for that. A lot of people were like, "Why are you cutting up that beautiful flame maple top?" Because getting a beautiful piece of maple like that is kind of rare. Because I thought it would look really, really cool once I put color on it and did a cool burst to it, and it turned out great. It was that's my personal guitar. That's the one that that's I don't think I could ever get rid of that one because it was like this crazy vision that I had, and I'm like, let me see if I can make this become a reality right now.
I had no idea that it, like, you must have done like 7 or 8 stain jobs on that thing, like doing the color burst, kind of going in and then buffing it down and then doing it again. Because like all those, you came back with another one. I was like, he's doing it again, like again.
Well, yeah, like most people, like I think that's why that video got so much traction on YouTube is because you keep saying, it's perfect, and then I'm sanding it back again. I think I can make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Every time it was like, I'm sure people were like, no, stop, don't do it. Yeah. And I did it again.
Did you do one too many?
No, it got to exactly. What was funny with that guitar is my vision was I just wanted it to be yellow. I just wanted it to be like a yellow. But for whatever reason, it wasn't giving me the depth that I wanted it to give me. And when you add in like those darker colors, like, man, the depth just goes nuts on those flame and quilted tops.
Right.
And once I put that little bit of dark color around the edge, I'm like, oh, this is it. Now it's
a dark guitar.
Yeah.
It turned out incredible. It was beautiful.
It's fun. I love doing that. I don't do that nearly as much anymore. I've been doing a lot of like natural wood type tops, and where I'm like, I can't dare put color on this right now because it looks so good natural. Like, I guess I'm going back to my woodworking roots where it's like, I don't want to wait, I just built this hall tree for you. You want me to paint it? I made it out of walnut, for crying out loud. You want it to be painted white?
Yeah.
I'm not your guy.
Our when my wife and I built our last house, well, I didn't build it. We had it built, but we went and picked out the cabinets, and we're like, oh, I think we're gonna go dark cabinets because that was the thing. And then we were in the house for like maybe 2 years, and then she was like, I think I want white cabinets. I was like, oh no, we just paid all this money for this, dark wood cabinets.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we want to paint it white.
Yep. No, I get it. We're actually going through that in our house right now, where the cabinets are nice.
Yeah.
But man, if they were just whiter, I mean, they could be so much better. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was trying to tell her, I was like, once they're painted, we're not going back. I mean, we're not in that house anymore, so it didn't really matter at the end of the day. But so
That's
when
funny,
we moved to
isn't
this house, when she said she wanted the cabinets painted, we got them painted before we moved in. I was like, I'm not even going to mess with this argument.
That's so smart to get that done before you even get it. It's so smart. Oh.
She won, and she was right. It looks great. It looked like crap before. The house was built in '94, and so it had that like oak cabinets.
Yep.
Like oak.
Builder's
was
grade
like aged.
oak.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was aged, 30 years aged, and not like a good bourbon or anything.
Yeah, no. Yeah, 30-year aged cabinets do not compare to a nice 30-year bourbon or malt scotch, if you
right. So what's the most fun part of the build for you?
Most fun part? Wow. I think it's once I start to get finish on the different things that I've worked so hard to get to that point where I'm saying, like, please don't let there be any more scratches.
Right.
It's normally when I do a grain fill with Total Boat epoxy. Not sponsored.
Yet.
No, they're very good people. They're very good to me. So when I do a grain fill, like, I just use their high performance resin, and I do that I try not to get rid of all of so walnut, maple, there's very little grain lines in those woods.
Yeah.
Mahogany, there's a ton, and it fills up some of those spots, so that the cavities, the lines aren't as deep. So it takes this and turns it into this. It's no longer a mountain, it's a hill.
Right.
I don't like to fill it up glass smooth because I want it to look and feel like wood, if that makes sense. But when I put that first coat on and it seals all the grain and the color just evolves of the natural wood, that's my favorite part. Like, that's it. And then it happens again because I normally take that and sand it back to, like, I don't know, 7,000. And then I put on an oil finish and it just pops again. And now it has a bunch of depth because of the oil. So yeah, once I think the oil part's probably the coolest, but that first time you get something, saturated on there. Yeah.
Right.
And daily, like, I think I do it practically daily on Instagram, where I'll just take denatured alcohol and wipe off the top or something just to see the grain pop. And I love doing it. Like, I do it, I think, there's a spray bottle of denatured alcohol right next to me because I do it so often. Right. I want to see what the grain's doing, but I also want to see, like, all right, how many little scratches do I have in here? What's this going to look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You take an inspection light and look at all your stuff.
I have the Surf Prep 2-foot inspection light. right on my bench, and I'm sitting at my bench that I spend probably 98% of my time working here. If I'm not doing this, I got to cut something quick on the bandsaw or on the table saw. But this is where I spend all my time. So yeah, the inspection light is right on the other side of my computer, which is pretty funny. If I turned it on right now, which I think I unplugged the plug in the computer, it would be very good natural lighting for this situation.
Those things are super bright, and people don't realize how much they miss when they're sanding down stuff. Like you look at it and you're like, oh, this looks great. You turn on an inspection light, you're like, nope, there goes another 4 hours of my life. Now I really got to get after it.
That's it, man. Like, and it does help me now to have that for all the different steps, because I do it like any woodworker. Like I start at, 80, 100, 120, 150. I go all the way through all the grits, and now I don't have to go back.
Right.
Like, I don't have to redo things now because I can inspect it every step of the way.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely saved me a lot of time. It's made me more efficient. I'll say it that way.
Right. Yeah. Nothing's more frustrating than getting it to like 400 or 600. And you're like, oh, there's pigtails in this thing. So now you got to go back to 150 or whatever and start all over.
And not just like a significant amount of pigtails. And you're like, wait, how did I miss that for so long?
Do you ever think back to your like first few guitars and think, gosh, I wish I would have made this different?
Yes. I have my first guitar sitting right over there. And I put that on Instagram at one point where I pulled it out one day and I'm like, oh man, this thing.
Yeah.
I asked the people, I'm like, should I redo this thing? Should I redo this the way that I would want to see it done today? And everyone, I think it was probably 90-10. Like, no, you got to leave your first one alone. You can't do that to your first one. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I guess I got to leave it.
Or you could do a redo, like
remake it.
Like inspired by, and then hang them next to each other to like gauge how far you've come.
To tell the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it even weighs it weighs a ton. Like now I'm so concerned with weight and balance and all of these crazy things that I didn't care about then. I'm like, I just want to make a cool guitar.
Yeah.
And now it's like, man, I picked that thing up. I'm like, this thing is so heavy. If I
Why does my neck hurt?
If I wasn't sitting down right now, I wouldn't play this thing. Yeah. Pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes think about some of my first built-ins. In fact, I went back to give an estimate for some previous, my very first built-in. I went back to give an estimate for something. And I looked at my built-in and I couldn't look at it because it was so bad.
And they loved it.
They loved it. Yeah. Like they're like, everybody talks about this thing. And like, I can just with my naked eye, I could see the imperfections in the paint.
Yep.
Because I painted it by myself. I had a Harbor Freight sprayer, $20 Harbor Freight sprayer that I sprayed it with.
Yeah.
I was spraying it like at midnight. So, I mean, it was awful.
Deadlines, baby. Deadlines.
Yeah. Oh, stupid deadlines.
And that was probably like the kids were asleep. No one was bothering you. You had you were trying to get away from the day job. So you're out there doing. Yeah. I get it.
Well, and I had to install it like before Christmas. So it was like Christmas Eve. I was installing this thing because they were having a party. And so I was like, please tell your guests, don't touch it. It's wet.
Don't put anything on it.
Yeah.
Don't start decorating it just yet.
Right. Yeah. Well, I felt awful, but deadlines, like you said.
That's great.
So I sent out a little thing. I asked some questions, before you come on the podcast. One of the things that you mentioned was getting 10,000 hours and chasing that perfection. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Have you ever heard that theory of the 10,000 hours?
Yeah, but maybe for the listeners, just to kind of like, how does that affect you and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so it's funny. Like I even like had to look it up and had to do the math in my head. Like what does it take? And so Malcolm Gladwell, the author who wrote this book Outliers, right? And he referenced this 10,000 hours, the seeking perfection thing. 10,000 hours equates to doing something 6 hours a day, every day for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years, you can get to your 10,000 hours. And I was like, man, all right, so I know I probably spent that. Now, to be fair, like, yes, I do this a lot, but part of me not working anymore, I take my kids to school every day. I drive them to school every day. I pick them up when their day's over. And just like you, I sneak out to the shop when everyone's in bed and dinner's done. Because I genuinely, when I stopped working, I was like, all right, I just want to be a husband and a father. Like, that's my job. You know what I mean? And if I'm not able to be a husband and a father, that's when I'm doing this guitar building stuff. But what's funny is like a lot of us makers are hobbyists. Like, a lot of us aren't as lucky as me to be able to do this as much as I can. And if you're just spending, and I used to do this, like, if you're just spending 30 minutes a day, it would take you 60 years to get to your 10,000.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I mean, if you keep plugging, you're going to get there. But really what it was and what the research talked about is that it's not just that practice and doing these tasks over and over and over again to reach this element of perfection, or what you think perfection is. There has to also be, for the people that truly end up on top, some underlying talent somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's not just, I can't go out and spend all the time that I spend building guitars trying to learn how to ice skate and become an NHL player. Mm-hmm. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
There has to be some element of a little bit of skill or artistry or whatever it is that you're doing. I'm not going to be a neurosurgeon either. I don't think any of us could do that.
Right.
But what's cool is that I realize is having this luxury that I have now. I'm not saying I'm a perfectionist, and I'm not saying I hit my 10,000 hours, but man, it's pretty cool when you're able to spend that much time just doing this one thing.
Yeah.
That you start to, I don't know, is validation the right word? Like,
I think so.
Like, when other people start recognizing that, wow, this person's doing cool stuff, that maybe there's some of the validation there, but I'm more confident in my skill, my ability. I think that goes with the 10,000 hours too. Yeah. I mean, one of the examples that Malcolm Gladwell used in the book is, people talk about the Beatles and how, like, they think that they were just an immediate success, when in reality they spent their 10,000 hours working in bars and before they got here.
Right. Yeah.
They did all their time. They did their search for perfection before we even knew who the hell they were.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm the Beatles, but I'm trying to get to that point. I'm trying to get my 10,000 hours, as opposed to just being a hobbyist any longer. I guess that's really what it is. Because hobbyist, it's awesome. Like, I still think, like, a lot of the stuff that I do, I feel like a hobbyist. Like, and I guess that I'll use this as an example also. I don't even know if you could really say that I've got my 10,000 hours, because some of the research and that stuff actually talks about it's 10,000 hours doing one task.
Right. 10,000 hours sanding, 10,000 hours cutting something.
Yeah, 10,000 hours putting frets. Like, I'm nowhere near that level of comfortability and all those things. Just saying, if the task is, and you can't say this, building a guitar, I feel pretty good.
Right.
If you named every one of the individual things, I'm like, man, I still feel like I could get a lot more done. I feel like I could get better at every one of those little steps.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's something, when I said, like, that search for, like, literally that's my quest. And I think there's something to be said for anyone that's doing this stuff, that if you if you are a hobbyist and you are making cutting boards and you're making these things that you make, like, man, the more you're going to do it.
Right.
Like you just mentioned the guitars, putting your first one next to the one that I could build right now. Immediately, I'm going to see those imperfections like you saw in your built-in because you're that much closer to the 10,000 hours. There's just something really cool about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Of even having the humility to say I'm nowhere there yet. But man, it's cool that I can only focus on this. I'm sure, Matt, I bet you right now if I said money's not an issue, you can do what you do in the shop every day from now on, you'd say, okay.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yep. So there was a guy when I was growing up from my old church. His name was Brian Dietz, and I think he's since passed. But he played with a band, Dick Dale and the Deltones, way back, old beach boys kind of thing.
Dick Dale reversed the strings on his guitars. They were on the guitar the opposite way that they should.
Yes. So he was the bass guitarist for that band.
Wow.
And he worked at Fender, and so the guitars would come down the line, and he was the guy that got to test every guitar before it went on out to the to the customer, essentially.
Yeah.
So he got 10,000 hours like overnight. It feels like, just like doing that one thing, but you're doing every task. So of course your growth is going to take a lot longer than somebody who's sitting there putting frets in a factory.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do that in their sleep.
Yes,
kind of
absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Even to this day, it's pretty funny. A guy locally that worked at a couple different guitar manufacturers here locally in Chicago, I found him. I mean, he is a true luthier. He has his 10,000 hours. Mm-hmm. Every guitar that I finish, I give to him, and I pay him to do what that guy did.
Oh yeah,
because I want to say, okay, I'm pretty confident. I think I nailed it, and I basically pay him to cut me apart, which is great.
Yeah,
I love it. Like, I love having that.
Everybody needs that
checks and
control.
balances, man, and of someone that has that skill and ability. It every time, like, I see the phone ring, if he has one of my guitars, I'm like, oh God.
Well, especially for you, like if you had to redo a fret was in a wrong position or something, the necks are built into the body. So how would you solve that problem?
I'd probably have to pull the fretboard off. And
damn.
While it's on the guitar. It wouldn't be easy. Not at all. Thank God he hasn't said that. Now I gotta knock on something.
Yeah, you better knock on something. Well, you've got a good process on how you do that. I mean, you have I've seen you draw out your schematics and stuff like that. So I'm sure the precision is like bar none.
Yeah, well, it kind of, I think that, like I said earlier,
no pun intended.
That's what kind of got me into this is that it's gotta be right. It's like, even like one of the things I was doing today, this is really funny. So I was putting a neck into a guitar, and I had the bridge that I was going to use on this particular guitar, and it's different than the other two guitars that I'm working on. I'm like, okay, based on where the neck is and the 3.4 degree angle on the neck, if I lay a straight edge, a precision ground straight edge across these frets, it should be 10.7 millimeters off of the body at 636.56 millimeters.
Dang.
From the nut. I'm measuring these things out, saying, okay, I need to take a hair off the bottom of this neck before I put it in there, before I glue it, before I put the top on, to know that this bridge is going to... It's like chess. It's like you need to know all the other moves that are going to have to happen before things can go together.
Yeah.
So,
Not like IKEA furniture where they say, install this piece. And so you install that piece, and then it says, but first...
put C
Yeah.
next to D
Yeah.
and attach them, but first.
Oh, it's more like attach ZZ to, QX.
But it's got to be standing up at this angle.
Yeah.
And you need to have 3 arms. So good luck.
Yeah. I read an IKEA manual like some people drive, they got to turn the map upside down.
Yeah.
Like, you got to see okay, well, they drew the illustration at this particular angle. So let me move the furniture in that particular angle.
That's so great.
Yeah. So you're building your social media stuff. Is that a huge focus of the business, or is it just a side benefit for you?
Well, it's funny. Like I didn't think it was gonna do anything. Like when I first started doing it, I didn't think that it was gonna do anything, and I didn't know that it could do anything for me, which is, I guess, weird. How interesting is this? My dog right now has opened the door to the house and is now trying to open the door to the garage to come out here to visit me. So this should be good.
Right.
So it wasn't the primary focus. I'll throw a however in there. As I was talking about those guitar bodies, one of the guitar bodies that I did for a person on YouTube. He reviews guitars. He sometimes makes guitars. They call them parts casters, like where he'll gather all the stuff and put one together. I reached out to him, and this was a guy that's got 800,000 followers. Or I'm like, this guy's going to ignore me completely. And I said, hey, I'd like to build you a guitar body. And that was the last time that I only built a guitar body, which is kind of interesting. Because after he posted that video of that guitar that he was putting together, I haven't had to worry about getting rid of guitars from that day moving forward, which is really funny. Like one video that he did got enough people out there, because I'm not trying to sell 100 guitars. I'm trying to sell, 5 to 10 a year. That's it.
Yeah.
He was able to keep me busy from the moment that video came out, which is really, really weird and funny. And I won't mention the name because I recently built a guitar for him and surprised him with it as a thank you for basically starting my business. But after that, I'm like, wow, this social media crap is pretty powerful.
Oh yeah.
like I didn't realize that it could be because I wasn't on these things. Like I was on Instagram to follow people that built cool stuff, but I wasn't really thinking wow, I can make this work for me. But yeah, I've always followed the same process when it came to social media. Like I do my YouTube videos because every year I get in this thing called the Great Guitar Build Off. It's from a company called Crimson Guitars in England. And I've made a lot of cool friends that are fellow builders like me over the years through this. And I participated in it every year since they've done it. I think the first year they did it, it was during the, what the heck is it called? The COVID stuff, when the pandemic hit. Meeting these people through this Great Guitar Build Off, I found a really cool community, right? So, and to be part of that, you had to do YouTube videos of your build and your building process, which at the time I was like, wait, what? You want me to film this? So what, at that time, what was that? 2020, I think I go to was it 2019? I'm not even sure.
Yeah. 2020. I think
I go to my son, my oldest son, who is living on YouTube like most of our children, and I said, "Hey, what do I gotta do to do a YouTube video?" I was clueless.
Yeah, and
he goes, "Well, you're gonna need to get this camera. It's a perfect vlogger camera. It's this, that. I don't even know what the brand is." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go get one of those cameras." And yeah, you're going to have to edit the video. You're going to have to do this. And I said, "Bud, do you know how to do?" "No, I don't." So I had to teach myself how to edit videos. I learned from, I even think my first few videos, I used like an app that would compress your stuff and just spit out something.
Oh, wow.
I don't
Yeah.
even know what it was, because I was just saying, like, what's the easiest way? Then I started following the Jimmy DiResta model, where I just filmed everything and just did it at 400% speed.
Right.
And put music behind it, or had shop sounds. I'm like, oh, this will be cool. Works for him. Like, and that's evolved over the years, where I got more comfortable with either editing or filming and that kind of stuff. But honestly, that's always like second to me, like second nature to filming it. Even what I post on Instagram, which started blowing up as I was doing what I do every day. If I'm doing something, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. I've got those cheapo, articulating arms. I drilled holes in my bench that I can just stick the arm in there.
Yeah.
And I can click my phone to it, and I just film what I'm doing. And it takes me, like, people often will say, oh, do you spend a lot of time editing? Or no, I film like 2 or 3 steps of what I'm doing in a process.
Yeah.
And I just put them together and add music that I like. And that's it. Like, I don't do anything fancy with that stuff. And people like checking it out, I guess. Who knows?
Well, I think the thing that you do with it is you bring, and this is what I tell people, and I got this information from Joseph from Joe Jacks. But basically you bring the camera to the interesting part. You bring the camera down to like what your eye sees. And I think that's what people probably enjoy about your content, is that you're not just showing a wide shot of you, just doing one little thing. You're bringing the camera, you're bringing the view down, and we feel like we are, because your channel is primarily your hands, like we talked about earlier on.
Yeah,
it's primarily your hands, and so people kind of feel like, hey, I'm getting his first person view of what you're making, which is cool.
And I think what else is kind of, maybe it's interesting or different. When I started doing that, in the guitar building world, for whatever reason, guitar builders don't share the how.
Right.
They don't share their process. It's like these are
Magicians.
Secrets. These are these secrets that you can only, like, they're like the first rule of Fight Club kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that, because I taught myself how to do these things. I didn't take a class. I sure, just like anybody doing something, it's just like if something happened to my car, I'd go to YouTube and try to say, like, all right, let me try to troubleshoot this and put in some keywords here and see if there's any video on this stupid thing that I got to fix.
Right.
That's what I did with building guitars in the beginning. It's like, let me just try to figure it out. And if there is one, I'm going to find it. And what I realized is most of the stuff that you do, there wasn't anything.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of process. But once that Great Guitar Build-Off thing came off, there's tons and tons of guitar building videos now, which is really, really cool. I'm glad that people are sharing that. But even the Instagram stuff, people were showing a picture of a finished guitar. I'm like, I think this is cool to see, like, the crazy cool woods that I use to build these things, know?
Absolutely.
So, like, I'm like any of us, like, that's what I dig the most, I think, is like finding like these pieces of wood that, wow, if I had that in my shop, I can't imagine what I would do. Like I've got a whole rack full of this stuff over there. Yeah. Like, this is kind of a cool story. At least I think it is. Me and the family, our vacation last year, we went to Morocco. So whenever we go somewhere, I'm typically that guy that, all right, and behind the scenes, as we're doing these things, I'm looking up rarest wood in insert country name or city name or whatever. Mm-hmm. So we're in Morocco. I'm like, all right, rare, cool wood in Morocco. And this thing comes up called Thuya, spelled Thuya. And I'm like, let me read about this Thuya. Why is it so cool? And I guess, kings of the past would use it for, its smell or its incredibly cool figure and all these things. It was saved for only the royal family. And like, all right, let me understand like where the best part of this really Toya is. It's probably like those stupid trees that the deer eat in your backyard. It's like a crappy cedar. You know what I mean? It's not that cool of a tree. But what's interesting about it, because it's so highly coveted, you're not allowed to cut these things down. You have to wait until they die. And the coolest part of Toya wood is the burls. Like most trees, right? The burl's pretty cool. But the burls are buried underground. So you have to wait for the tree to die, and then they don't have this heavy machinery in the Atlas Mountains.
Right.
You got to hand dig up these big burls, hoping that there's a cool burl in there. You might not even get anything cool out of it, right? So these guys are working like, so I'm like, I got to find this Toya wood. So we're in this town in Morocco, right on the ocean. And if I can remember the name of it, I'm sure my kids would know right away. We're in this town, and I'm like, oh, there's a store selling all these little trinkets and stuff made out of this really cool wood. I go in, the whole thing was full of this Toya burl stuff, little trinkets and whatnot, little gift boxes or assorted things, candlesticks, holders. And so I started talking to the guy, and I said, I'm a guitar builder, and I'm looking for a piece that I could actually make, like put on the top of a guitar, something. He goes, well, I have this piece, and he pulls out this piece that's like this big, and it's a little more than 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm like, yeah, but I need one that's like this big. And he goes, I don't have any of the wood. He goes, but I have this serving tray. Okay, let me see this serving tray.
Yeah.
So he pulls out this serving tray. A bunch of other trinkets and stuff are on top of it. And I'm like, oh my God, this thing's ridiculous. And how much? And I think, when everything was, it might have been like $40 or whatever. Yeah. But like you can't, I've never, like, I looked it up right away. I'm like, Toya burl guitar. There isn't one.
Oh, wow.
Like I couldn't find one. I've seen people use them in knife scales and stuff like that, because normally you get like little pieces enough to make a trinket out of.
Yeah.
So I'm literally making a guitar right now, and I posted something on it today, and I was like, man, this has got to blow up. No one's ever seen this before.
Yeah.
No one cared. It kind of broke my heart. Well, I should say like 6,000 people cared. Right. But I was expecting at least this is going to blow up today. Nothing.
But see, on Instagram, it's different because people aren't necessarily searching for that type of thing.
Yeah.
But on YouTube, if you captioned it like rare wood, something or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would get tons of traction because people love that. Like, people are looking for interesting things like you. Yeah. When you go to YouTube, you're searching for something specific. And so if somebody's like looked up rare wood on guitar, then boom, you're hit number one, Yeah,
it's funny. Like, I don't ever, I thought about that at one point. I'm like, all right, if I wanted to make a crazy cool video that could get the most traction possible, I started saying like, all right, let me just start looking at some of these international things, right? So if it goes international, then the numbers go through the roof.
Right.
I started realizing how many views, this is going to make you laugh, people that were making cricket bats. Videos of people making cricket bats.
Really?
Millions and millions and millions of views. I don't care which one you click on.
Right.
They've all got crazy numbers of views. I'm like, what I should do is I should do like a video. I made a cricket bat and then I made it into a guitar.
Yeah.
To really like
here's
play
this perfect
with
cricket bat, perfectly polished, ready to go.
Yeah.
And then, nope.
Here's a flame maple illegal cricket bat. Like if you put in the word illegal cricket bat, there's even millions more views, which is funny because I guess cheating at cricket bat making is kind of a big deal.
Wow.
But I was like, man, this could really blow. But I'm like, do I really want to build a stinking cricket bat just to get a bunch of views? I don't know. It'd be cool, but I don't want to.
Right. Yeah.
That's too funny.
That's great. I think you should do it, but you know,
I probably should because
I'm not the one putting the hours in.
They look cool. Like I look at the shape; it's the perfect shape to turn into a guitar. It really is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It'd be a nice little slim guitar, but it'd be cool nonetheless.
Right, a ukulele.
Yeah, why not?
Cricket ukulele, longest neck ever.
Oh, so funny. Holy cow.
So how do you, so you mentioned that you can, I think we did this in the pre-show kind of thing, but you talked to some other woodworkers and people in your area, just general woodworkers. But is there like this whole niche kind of group that you're part of that you talk to other guitar builders?
What's funny is we started this thing that, like, from that first Great Guitar Build Off, there was this, I often refer to them as this group of knuckleheads that were from all over the world. Like, there's a handful of folks in Europe. There's a handful of folks in Australia. There's a handful of folks in the U.S. One just moved to Sweden, for crying out loud. Like, they're all over the world. And we started our own Instagram page, or one of the guys in Australia has an Instagram page dedicated to it. Another one of the guys started a website where it's like a Discord where you can start conversations or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it's grown into something kind of cool. Whereas, like, a lot of people can go there and ask questions about, you know, like, I'm having a trouble with this or having issues with this. What do you think about this? But really, it's this group. It's called the Guitar Builders Collective. And it's just people trying to help each other out. Because, as I said earlier, like, there was this secret sauce that no one was sharing, but this group of knuckleheads will share everything, and it's great. It's great to know that those people are out there when you're running into these things.
Right.
I've got this, I've got that, I got this crazy problem. Anyone know what to do in this situation? And it's really, really cool to have that support there, that anchor, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to have, like, when you're working on, you got a challenge that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
That you can't find on YouTube. Like, it's hard to have you can't have a dialogue with somebody on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, you can leave a comment. Typically people who have a lot of views or whatever, they'll respond within the first 48 hours. After that, your comment goes into the abyss. You never get responded to. Instagram, you can have a little bit more conversation with people.
Yeah.
But it's hard to like carry on a full conversation, especially like even in an Instagram chat. If you've got a bunch of people, the question you've asked a question of, 2 days ago, it's now dead. It's gone into the abyss. Especially
when, like, I always laugh. Like, I the first thing I did when we had that Instagram chat going is I turned off notifications because
yeah.
I mean, these knuckleheads are up they're all over the world. So you can miss out on a lot of conversation, but I will say this: it is kind of fun in the morning to go through and try to quickly. All right, what the hell did I miss?
Yeah. You need like a somebody who can document. Okay, this is what happened in the last 24 hours.
We need a stenographer to bring someone up to speed real quick if they decide to go to sleep at night.
Yeah. Can I get the Cliff Notes version of the last 24 hours, please?
and what's pretty funny is, like you mentioned that, like, replying. I will say this, like, because I think back to when I first reached out to some of these other, people on Instagram when I was giving away these guitar bodies that had like a presence, they had a following, people knew who the heck they were, right? I remembered what it was like for me to even have the courage to type out a question. And I never have forgotten those feelings. And I swear to you, there has never been a comment in Instagram that I haven't responded to.
Yeah.
I've responded to every single one. And I get a lot of messages throughout the day. I do it twice a day. I'll check them in the morning when I'm sitting here drinking coffee. I'll check it at night when I'm getting ready to go to bed. Or if I'm routinely on it at some weird point, I'll respond. But I even go into like the notifications thing. I don't have notifications on, as I said, but I'll go into where you can sort comments, and I'll make sure that I at least gave this to whoever it was that made a comment. Typically it's thanks, thank you, whatever the case may be. But even if people like the DMs I get a lot of DMs, and I respond like a thoughtful response, not just, hey, look it up. Like, this is what I would, this is what I would do it. This is what I would do in that situation, or this is how I do it. Not saying it's the right way. I've never stopped doing that. And I would really have a hard time stopping, because I think back to how weird it felt sending that message. The first time when I had to do it.
Yeah. So no, that's so good. It's important to keep that focus.
Well, I grew up with hay in my hair, for crying out loud. So I try not to forget that I grew up with hay in my hair, and people have questions.
Yeah. Also the sales guy in you. Always be closing.
Always.
That could be a potential, shout out at some point.
Could be a buyer somewhere. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, I want to hear more about the name Shock the Fox. So what do you say we head over to the after show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to put all of your contact information in the show notes. So make sure that you follow Tye and what he's doing on Instagram, YouTube, and I'll leave your website there as well.
Thank you.
Get on his books for 2029 and
that's great.
Thanks to Surf Prep. Tye's a big fan of Surf Prep, just like I am. So thank you to Surf Prep for sponsoring this episode and in all of the episodes.
Thank you.
Head over to surfprepsanding.com. Use code MakerLounge, all one word, for 10% off. And also thank you to our patrons. We've got a number of top tier patrons that I like to shout out at the end of the episode. So thanks to Jimmy McAnally, Wimm Design, Calvary Customs LLC, Cleancut Woodworking, Bailey Thompson, Dave Garcia, Broken Lead Woodworks, Starks Lagoon, Sawyer Design, Kodama Design, Dylan Furniture, Mr. Shock the Fox, and Don Patterson. And thank you to all of the groupie and season ticket holder patrons as well. Head over to patreon.com/MakerLoungePodcast to sign up. As little as $3 a month. Can't ask for more than that.
No.
All right. Let's do that after show.
Yeah. I can let my hair down now, right?
Right. Thanks for being on. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to hearing more.
Yeah. No, I could. It's cool to just have these conversations, man. And
absolutely.
You do a great job with it. So make sure you keep that in the after show. You do an amazing job with this, man. And
thanks,
thank
dude.
you.
Appreciate it.